In this video, we'll be covering a basic profit and loss question. So let's read the question just to understand what's going on here. So the question reads, a fruit vendor bought 240 oranges at 45 cents each. 20 of the oranges were rotten and had to be thrown away. The remaining oranges were sold at 75 cents each. It then wants us to calculate the cost to the fruit vendor. So the cost to the fruit vendor, the total amount received after the fruit was sold, and the profit to the fruit vendor. So let's start off with part A. So part A, we're trying to calculate the cost to the fruit vendor. Now, when we're calculating cost, there's two main things that we need to know, right? So cost is going to be equal to the number of items multiplied by the cost, or rather, we'll say the price per item. So the cost is going to be equal to the number of items multiplied by the price per item. So in this question, we're told that the fruit vendor purchased 240 items. So we have 240 items, and each orange, so that's going to be the price per item, costed 45 cents. So if we want to calculate the total cost to the vendor, that's going to be 240 multiplied by 45. So if you punch that into your calculator, you should get $108. So that's how we calculate the cost. It's going to be the number of items multiplied by the price per item. And they gave us that in the question. So we're just going to write that here. So we're just going to write 108. And notice that they already have the dollar sign here. So we could just write 108. So part B is asking us, what's the total amount received once the fruit was sold? So if we're looking at the total amount received, we're looking at how much money we made. That's basically what they're asking us here. So part B, I'll just write B here. So for part B, we're looking at the total amount received. So the way that we find out how much money we made, so we'll say total amount. So the way that we'll find out how much money we made is we have to multiply the number of items sold. So the number of items sold multiplied by our selling price per item. So selling price per item. So let's see if we can find this information in the question. So remember, the vendor purchased 240 oranges, right? At 45 cents each. But 20 of those oranges were rotten and had to be thrown away. So that leaves us, so if 20 of them were rotten and had to be thrown away, that means that we only have 220 oranges left, because that'll be 240 oranges is what we started off with, but now 20 of those oranges went bad. So of course, 240 minus 20 is going to give us 220 oranges, right? So that's how many oranges we have left now. And now the question says the remaining oranges were sold at 75 cents each. So of that 220 oranges, what we're going to do is we're going to sell each of those oranges at 75 cents each. So that means that for our selling price is going to be 75 cents. And then the number of items we're selling, that's just going to be 220. So if we want to calculate the total amount that we received after selling all of this fruit, we'll just calculate 220 multiplied by 75 cents. So that's going to be 220 multiplied by 0.75. And if you were to punch that into your calculator, you should get 165. So that means we made $165 off of oranges, right? So now for part C, we want to calculate the profit to the fruit vendor. So let's calculate the profit. I'm going to put part C right under here. So for part C, let's look at what profit means, right? So profit is going to be the total amount. So that's going to be the total amount that we received minus our total cost, right? So remember, in part B, we found out that the total amount that we received is $165. So I'm just going to write 165 right here. And then in part A, we found out that the cost of all these oranges was $108. So that's $108, right? So the profit is just going to be 165, which is the amount of money that we receive, minus 108, which is the total cost for all the oranges. So we do that calculation. If you punch this into your calculator, you'll get 57. So we made $57 selling 240 oranges. So let's recap a little bit here. So what we did is, in the beginning, for us to find the total cost, we multiplied the number of items by the price per item, right? And that gave us $108. From there, we needed to find the total amount of money that we made after we sold all this fruit. So to calculate that, we just need to find out how much of the oranges we were selling, and then what was the price that we were selling each orange for. So that turned out to be, we were selling 220 oranges because 20 of them went bad. And then we decided to sell each orange at 75 cents each. So when we multiplied that, we got 220 multiplied by 0.75, which is 75 cents. That gave us $165. Now, to calculate the profit, what we did was we took the total amount received and we multiplied, and we subtracted the total cost. So the total amount that we made was $165, and our total cost was $108. So that left us with a $57 profit. So that's how you solve this problem. Just a note here, another name, because in this question we say total amount received, right? So another name for total amount received is revenue. So we can call this revenue. You might hear this if you're talking to a business, or if you're talking about, anything where money is involved, any funds that are made, you call that revenue. So the total amount that you received is called your revenue. But your revenue is not the same as your profit, right? So you have your revenue and you have your cost. And in this question, we get to see the difference between revenue, profit, and cost.